Class, I wanted to share this workshop with you, teaching students how to fish. It really connects to a lot of what we have been discussing so far in terms of understanding where students are and trying to help them get to where they need to go. And one of the concepts that I didn't create this age-old saying, but I think it really much so applies to what we're trying to do, especially when we're talking about self-directed learners, etc. How can we teach students how to fish versus just teach them? And it means partnering with learners and maybe perhaps moving beyond student-centered or learning-centered teaching to, having students be also student-centered and learning-centered. You could very well teach and you can be student-centered, but how do you have your students also work in their own favor, etc.? Now, hopefully I mentioned this in class, but if you disrupt the model of what they're used to, sometimes students can still be asking you, especially depending upon their developmental stage, etc., for a handout, an intellectual handout. Give me the answer so that I can give them back to you so I can pass the test, etc. So these are some things that come into mind. But then also, how do you make sure that we are building this into our courses, into our outcomes, etc.? So teaching students how to fish. This is a workshop that I've done, actually presented nationally, and it's also has a blog post. I will do the scholarship on it one of these days, an article, but need that extra time. So my goal is that leaving this workshop and you all watching this video at your homes and participating in this, I'm hoping that you'll leave valuing that you'll value the opportunity that teachers have to teach learners how to learn. Come to see yourself as having the power to teach students how to learn. Identify practical strategies for empowering students as self-directed learners, and be able to create a plan for teaching students how to learn in your course. So we'll see if we can get through all these. I don't want to make this video too long. I just want to share the overall workshop and concepts with you, and hope that you can engage in certain points of the video on your own, and then also we may do something on the discussion board if it would in Edmodo if it will flow correctly. So as you can see right here, agenda overview, mindset, role play, learning muscles, fishing activity, teaching student skills, learning how to learn goals, and then self-directed learners. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story. My story is that I wasn't the learner who always I was always very motivated, and I think that, since a young child, I was always inquisitive and had all the tools. But when I didn't always do super well, and all of my classes, there would be like one class that or like a math class or certain classes that I wouldn't do well, and it would really confuse me because I felt like I was, very, I knew I could learn, but it made me motivated to really try my best. So when I was in college, my first semester, I went on academic probation, warning, I guess. And academic warning was a result of all my grades. I went into college, I had no idea what to do. I was just, working hard, trying to study, but obviously as a first generation college student, my strategies weren't working. So then my second semester of my freshman year, I picked all classes that I thought I could pass, except for Psychology 101, which I had no idea, but it was the only class that fit. And I was really trying to pass this class, and I talked to a professor. Her name is Professor Wells, and she's actually still at my undergraduate institution to this date, Kutztown University. I told her, I said, hey, I really need to pass your class. So what can I do? I've always been very, outgoing. She's like, well, just study. Make sure you study. And those students who work hard and study. So I studied. I studied my tush off, and my first test was a quiz. It's 10 out of 10. We had like 5 of those throughout the semester. I got a 3 out of 10. It's like, oh my gosh, so what am I going to do? So then I go back to her office hours again. I say, hey, I'm studying hard. She's like, well, you study harder, Carl. So I studied harder. The next test, same thing. Well, actually, it was a 4 out of 10. And these are like a huge chunk of your grade. So you start to add up. So I said, oh my gosh, I can't fail this. So I stood up at the close of one of my classes, and this was actually after I had spoken to Dr. Wells again. I said, "Hey, I'm really trying to pass this class, and I really want to know if anybody else has any strategies," because Dr. Wells told me, "Hey, ask your classmates." So I asked my classmates, and they said, "Well, we can study together." And one of my friends says study groups work, and so yeah, study groups, etc. So this was way before the days of chatting, because we probably would have done our study group over like Google Hangouts or something. But we all actually met up in someone's room, and we started to do these things called round robins. And round robins were where we would take all of the literature, or the readings and stuff, and the terms, and we would like quiz each other. We would say, "Okay, Carl, you go. You take this concept," and then we'd run around with everyone. I would try to quiz everyone, and then we would rotate the notes around. And this next part is 100% true. When I did a few of these round robins, I got a 10 out of 10 on the next 3 quizzes, and on the final I got a 93. Well, I'm sorry, the midterm I got an 87, and the final a 93. At the end of the semester, I went to Dr. Wells and I said, "Hey, I thanks for encouraging me to talk to my friends at work." She's like, "Carl, what did you do?" I said, "We got into round robins, and I found out once I actually was teaching, or being involved in like explaining the concepts that you have to all of my peers, that it was far better than just sitting in my room reading notes forever, because we did an hour of a round robin. It was better than me doing 4 hours of reading on my own." She said, "You know what, Carl? You just learned how to learn." And I said, "What?" She said, "You learned how to learn." And I said, "Oh, wow." So that moment stuck with me, and that was when I pretty much learned how to learn. And it was a very impactful moment in my life. And it really, after that, even in my other classes, I know that if I can speak to someone about something and talk it out, and interact in that way, then I'm that much more likely to learn something. And that's what we're talking about when teaching students how to fish, because I learned how to fish in a way. But I'm hoping that we can empower students to have those moments even sooner than what happened with myself and Dr. Wells' class. So, significant learning is one of the articles that you're reading right now. You're reading in terms of the Noit reading, etc. How can we make it where students are able to complete at least this part? And we can talk about the rest of these later. But how can students learn how to learn? Think came up with this, D-Think came up with this model that says that we can encourage students not only to know what they know now, but be able to know what they know in your class to help them 10 years down the road. How can we make a very deep impression on their learning so they can be 10 years down the road knowing the content is helping them in a specific way? So this learning how to learn is becoming a better student with inquiry. This is a taxonomy, just like Bloom. So you can write an outcome that says, at the end of my course, students will become a better student about blah, blah, blah. Or students will become self-directed learners related to the process of blah, blah, blah. So it's very possible for us to encourage this in our pedagogy. But the question is how? So we're talking about empowering self-directed learners. We know that it's a cycle, right? So you have the task. You assess the task, whatever they're doing. Let's say it's basket weaving. You're weaving the basket, and then you assess how well they weave the basket, whether it be formative assessment on their way they thread the needle, or summative at the end in terms of like what the actual basket looks like, right? Then you evaluate the strengths and weaknesses about how they were weaving the basket. The students plan for some kind of intervention. They apply strategies and monitor performance. Then they actually reflect on that process and continue to move. So, doing so, it's really important that the students' belief about intelligence and learning are ones that are, as we said before, a growth mindset, not fixed. Because for a student to learn how to fish and be self-directed in this way, they have to believe that they can do it. It's not happening any other way. So how do we engage students in this process? How do we do this? Well, I have a little bit of a role play that I'll give you really quick, and it's very short. I won't make it too long, but it's me when I was talking to one of my staff members about students. Well, I guess I won't say staff, faculty, fellow faculty members. So I picked up the phone, and this is what the faculty said to me. Hello, Carl. Yeah, I'm good today. I'm good. I have a major issue with my class. I tried those methods that we talked about, the active learning, and and I really started doing a lot of the teaching and learning things for my students, and really trying to meet them halfway. But I really just don't think some of them are cut out for it, because I really have done everything I could do, and I'm at my wit's end, and I just feel like the students are looking at me as if they want a handout. And some students just can't cut it. I believe some students are really smart, but some students are really just can't cut it. I know it's something maybe controversial what I'm saying, but I've given all I can give. So when the skit's over now, of course. So when we look at this, what the instructor said to me about being at their wits' end, about some students just can't cut it, it kind of flies in the face of what learning research highlights in terms of these dendrites when synapses connect in your brain, in terms of we are constantly getting smarter because of the neural networks in our brain become more sophisticated as we learn, right? So that means we're growing versus this fixed intelligence mentality that we used to have in the past. So that's scientific. But of course, everyone starts at a different point, and everyone doesn't have the same neural networks connecting, etc. So that's understood. But we do understand that people can continue to learn. And it goes back to what we were talking about in class. Do they have that time, etc. But that's different if they have the time versus them being able to do it or not, right? But then we get into what we're talking about in terms of mindset. So the mindset helps us understand, okay, it's a matter of learning muscles. Given this task, what learning muscles do you have? How well developed are they? And how can we develop them to lift this task or complete it? And do we have the time for that physical training, or will you be too fatigued before that? And working it from there. But we all have these learning muscles. Some are more I guess I would say developed, and some would not be in any given circumstance. So this is usually, I think, share pair. But for the sake of this video, I want you to think of a time where you were taught a skill that you could use in various other situations. Just think about it. And you can pause this video and have a moment to jot these things down, or this moment down, or think to yourself. So for the sake of the video, I won't pause myself as well. But what I'll say is that there have been a number of occasions where I've been taught a skill. Like I remember when I learned how to, what do you call it? The process of learning about applications. And I know the process is like, okay, you read the manual, and then you use it, and then you kind of, go back to the manual as you use it. That process can be used for other areas. If I'm learning to do anything new, I can use that process of, the practice, the instructions, and referring back to instructions. So what might that be for you? So this video, there was a video I was going to show there about teaching skills, but these students were taught agricultural skills that can help them be more self-sufficient. And the skills were about planning, the sequence of when to farm, being on time, working together as a team, making calculations, judgments, etc. But you could also take these skills, right, that students were learning agriculturally, and you can apply it to other disciplines and other classes. So then my question to you is, what skills can you teach in your discipline that will allow students to be more self-sufficient in other classes and in the real world? What is that? What do you think that might be? I want you to think about that for a second and pause the video. So hopefully you've thought about it, and some of the skills that I've come up with in my time, in my research, is that in pretty much all of our courses, we can teach students time management skills, organization skills, note taking, memorizing, goal setting, even something like vulnerability.